are people that I represent in the heart of New Zealand. The heartland is the cultural heartland, and the tribe is Te Arawa. And I wouldn't go anywhere at home without someone from Te Arawa beside me. But it's fantastic to be invited here today. I never go to a group of thinkers on urbanisation and urban thinkers like you. I have a background in central government, 12 years as a member of Parliament, and I chaired the Parliamentarians on Population and Development Committee under a Helen Clark-led government. What a fantastic learning curve that was for me. And after politics, because I want to be perfectly frank, everything has a cycle. And we had our cycle, and it was time for change. And go away and reinvent yourself. And I worked around the Pacific and Asia on population and development issues in developing countries in the South Pacific. And then people said, come back and be the mayor. Well, you feel a bit like a failed politician, and should you go back and be the mayor? But you had skills dripping off you about social inclusion, about democracy, about fairness. And I stood on an agenda in a really community that had lost its heart, completely disconnected from what was happening in City Hall. I didn't have an optimistic future, empty shops, empty city heart, and didn't feel very good about ourselves. So I spent a year going around think leaders, if only I had a room like you, to work with to say, have you thought about, have you thought about, have you thought about? And so we talked about re-energising because we live on a geothermal caldera. So we talked about geothermal energy, what we could do with that fabulous resource, what we could do with the forests that surround our area and look at a wood first policy, and what we could do to reinvigorate a very stale tourism destination. So I stood, and it was a fantastic campaign with a huge groundswell of what I enjoyed, people from any party. So it was nice to park the body politic, but never in your heart, and work with people that really wanted to reinvigorate the place again. When we got in, we were a weird bunch that got elected. No one stands on a ticket. And I certainly stood for strong leadership. And I took them all up to the top of a mountain where we've got a fabulous restaurant with a view out over the city. And I said, what's it going to look like in 30 years' time? And it's our responsibility now to plan how this place is going to work, how the people are going to feel about the place. And from a very diverse group of individuals that got elected, we came up with a Vision 2030. It took us 4 days of strategic planning. Politicians are not good at doing that. They don't like it. They want to know who's going to be the chairman of the Finance Committee and the chairman of the Infrastructure Committee and how much extra money they might get with those portfolios. And then I brought a cabinet experience into our thinking with this Vision 2030 and decided that when politicians get bored, they get naughty and they become a nuisance. So we'd have portfolios, and those elected councillors would lead a portfolio. And we developed 7 portfolios about things that we believed in. And I was absolutely delighted to see that it was those with a business heart, those that were developers, had a heart about the fact that our real estate was in a poor state, that our homes didn't meet the needs of our people. One portfolio, sustainability. And so I knew what sustainability was all about, but how on earth were we going to get this conversation out in the community? We had another portfolio about revitalising the city heart, another one about open spaces so that we would really treasure the open spaces and the land that made us the people that we are, and another people portfolio. And the people portfolio is the most interesting story for me because 37% of Rotorua are Indigenous people and young people who might leave home to go to get a career or education opportunities, but want to come home and have a job in their own city, in their own district. they had a sense of hopelessness about their future. So this portfolio has been caught fire, and a lot of them said, what do I do now that I've got this portfolio? So council absolutely restructured. 80 jobs went, and we developed portfolio leads within the council, so that the structure of our council, the structure of City Hall, completely reinvented itself to meet the portfolio needs that lead towards a vision of partnership with the people. And the lesson that I learned most was that we were disconnected from the Indigenous people of Rotorua. And I went on to RMIT, which is our community living centre, and was welcomed on there, and said that we're going to develop an enduring partnership with the tribe. And that has been the most contentious thing in my mayor or two. And the message here is, if you're going to be a mayor that wants to last the distance, you've got to do the brave things. And to me, that's ethical. And it's doing what is right. But knowing that you've got a team behind you that is sold on the proposition is what we as a team can do for our district. So that was a journey that took 18 months. I formed a wonderful opposition in our community of people very frightened of change, people that had never had an open conversation about racism and on bicultural issues, let alone multicultural in a tourist destination, and yet we got there. And we got there in the end, but I have to say, when we put the vote to council after 1,900 submissions,